You got into the safety business because you wanted to protect people, but somewhere along the way, the job started controlling your time, your schedule, your priorities, even your income potential. What if the expertise you've built over the years in the field can give you something more? More freedom, more control, more ownership of your future. I'm Sheldon Primus, the author of 7 Steps to Starting a Profitable Safety Consulting Business and the host of the Safety Consultant Podcast, with more than 350 episodes helping safety professionals become consultants and grow their career. Consulting changed my life. In fact, I'm a full-time RVer, and one consulting contract paid for my home I live in today. Now, I help safety professionals build their own consulting practice through bi-weekly coaching calls, accountability, and personal guidance. But this program isn't for everyone. Start with the Consultant Readiness Audit at sheldon.coach.
What if everything we thought we knew about safety was just interference? From the host of the Rated R Safety Show and the founder of Safety FM comes the complete Signal Transmission Trilogy, now available in one powerful edition. Safety, in my opinion, the book that started the conversation. Safety Mutation, where the boundaries of culture, systems, and belief begin to break. And now, Safety Transmission, the final piece of the signal. For the first time, all 3 books are together in one volume. The Signal Transmission Trilogy, Complete Edition. This isn't just about compliance. It's about consciousness. It's about decoding the way we think, lead, and live, inside and outside the system. Whether you've been following the signal since the beginning or you're just now tuning in, this is the version to own. Search Signal Trilogy on Amazon or visit safetyfm.com to get your copy now.
Hi, this is Jim from Safety Wars. Before we start the program, I want to make sure everyone understands that we often talk about OSHA and EPA citations, along with some other regulatory actions from other agencies, legal cases, and criminal activity. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Proposed fines are exactly that, and they are often litigated, reduced, or vacated. We use available public records, news accounts, and press releases. We cannot warranty or guarantee the details of any of the stories we share, since we are not directly involved with these stories, at least not most of the time. Enjoy the show.
This show is brought to you by Safety FM.
Hello. Here we are. Unfortunately, on a somber note, we are starting. But, like everything else, we are what's the word I'm looking for? Not afraid to confront things here. We are the safety wars. We are the safety warriors. But this camera adjusted. I get that. Part of being in the safety business, it's part of this thing, this little thing of ours called Safety Wars. We confront issues dead on. Now, we realize that safety has nothing, well, I don't want to say nothing, has what to do in our workplaces, also has to do with what goes on in our society. So before airtime, I've been watching the coverage of Charlie Kirk, the assassination earlier today. 31 years old, had a wife, a family. Whether you loved him, whether you hated him, whether you're indifferent to him, whether you don't even know who he is. Rest in peace. No, he was a person who was, what's the word I'm looking for? To be respected. And not for what he believed, for what he built from scratch. I never met him. Right? He got involved in politics well after I left it. But let me share with you a little story here. I was at political events, this time in 2004. And I forget exactly what the event was. It was end of August, beginning of September. And there was a report came in that a politician that a lot of people on the right did not like having a reported heart attack. Turned out it wasn't a heart attack. Relatively young man, 58 years old. Nobody cared for him on the right. Very few. Dealt with 8 years of bad coverage, right? But he was looking back, he was a good politician because he was able to pivot and become, see what the winds of change had come and everything else. And this is at the time, 2004 context, right? And a lot of stuff has come out since then. We'll let history be the judge and God be the judge of that. So, there's a report of him having a heart attack. Right? Turned out it wasn't a heart attack, it was a blockage. He got some surgery a couple of days later. What do you think happened? There was went through the crowd. And people shocked. Women crying. Men just stoic. Some people weeping. And then there were prayer chains that were being formed. And one of the speakers said, let's pray for this individual. And people started praying. And people started, no smartphones, but, we had basic internet sometimes access at this event. And this was the talk of the event. People very upset. This was a right-wing event, a Republican event. And I forget even what the event was. It's been so long ago. 21 years ago. Fast forward that to today. Oh, and I'll say this much. When Ronald Reagan was shot, I remember that. There's an assassination attempt. The news coverage and everybody was very upset that Ronald Reagan got shot. I don't recall anybody out there on the left wing or right wing. I was old enough. I've been following politics since I'm 8 years old. Rejoicing, being happy. I'm sure some people were, but no internet then. People very upset. President was shot. I remember when the Pope, John Paul II, was shot. They basically had people, you had everybody upset at school. I was going to a public school at the time, and the school teachers were all upset, and a good chunk of them were Jewish. Now fast forward to today. We had President Trump an assassination attempt. People were rejoicing. Charlie Kirk, shot today, assassinated. Guess what? People rejoicing. Where did we go from there from 21 years ago with one person having a tragedy, and then everyone upset, and everyone's upset, prayers, and everything else, to today, where I had to watch on the social media feed, and I've gotten reports from friends in the program, people rejoicing that a man got killed. This is one public figure. Let's not forget we have thousands and tens of thousands of people dead this year. Right? It'll be just like with all the previous years, going back for 20, 30 years. Right? So this just came across, they got a suspect. 20 or 30 years, right? We have thousands of deaths and we have no empathy out there. Politicians continue to say, well, we got to do something about it. Nothing ever gets done. There's a systemic problem and nothing gets done. At what point is enough here? Oh, by the way, who was that politician 21 years ago? That was Bill Clinton. Right? Even in the midst of scandals and everything on the right hand, on the left, and not right, and on the right, in a lot of cases. No, people don't have empathy here. People don't have empathy here. But as I point out, death is final. There's finality in death. My mother and I had this conversation many years ago, after one of these things. There's finality in death. There's no redemption. It's either you're going to go to heaven, or if you're Catholic and you believe in purgatory, you're going to go to purgatory for however long. Everywhere, other people, you go either to heaven or to hell. Finality. However, what do you have when you're alive? You're able to learn, you're able to grow, you're able to have redemption. Whether or not you agree with someone politically, that you're taking away that thing called reconciliation and redemption from them. In the Christian faith tradition, everybody has redemption. You're able to be redeemed. You're able to have atonement. You're able to have what have you. Right? I can talk from my perspective, not from other people's perspective. You always have that chance, that opportunity to turn around. God's not finished with you yet. When you have a situation where person's very controversial, I got it, very controversial on a lot of stuff. There's no chance for any redemption here. The other thing is this. It's an easy solution. Oh, I don't agree with the person. I'm going to do something bad to them so they can't come back. I'm going to kill the person. Guess what? Now, the dialogue ends, and you think that you accomplished something. I got news for you. Man had a lot of followers. There's going to be a lot more, just like with Breitbart, where Breitbart met Andrew Breitbart, who I met about 2 weeks before he passed away at an event. He died of a heart attack, right? Natural causes. I know there's conspiracy theories out there, but died of natural causes. Now, guess what? Now we have millions of Breitbarts out there. What do you think is going to happen now? The man died. The man was assassinated, Charlie Kirk. You're going to have millions of Charlie Kirks out there now. And if I could quote that famous quote from, reported to be from Japanese Admiral Yamamoto, where a subordinate says to him, boy, look at what happened. And the Yamamoto says, I believe that you've just awakened a sleeping giant or a sleeping bear. I forget exactly what it was. What do you think is going to happen here with this? Violence begets violence. That's why we're very anti-violent here. We don't believe in violence. Unfortunately, other people don't believe that. That's not something I'm patting myself on the back for. Most people don't believe that violence is the answer to this stuff. And political violence, I tell you what, we're going to rue the day because a lot of areas of the country are a tinderbox. And when you start this, you do something like this, God knows what's going to happen. Now, reportedly, there's a suspect in custody. A lot of media outlets out there are saying, well, these are liberals who did this, or these are Democrats who did this, or this, or this or that, right? We don't know that. How do we know that this isn't one of his own supporters that did this? We don't know. Hopefully that will come out in the next few days. I don't know what to say here. And no, this is hard for me to talk about here. But violence is not the answer. No. Violence is not the answer with this. And violence begets more violence. I fear that we might be headed eventually towards a civil war, not in my lifetime, my children's lifetime, if we can't learn to get along together. And with that, I'm going to go to our first commercial break because we got some other news to share too over in Europe with the war, which we haven't reported on the war.
Safety Wars is streaming now.
At least we haven't reported lately on.
In the professional safety community, communication and planning are just a few keys to your program's success. The question many practitioners have is, where do I start? Dr. Jay Allen, the creator of the Safety FM platform and host of the Rated R Safety Show, has built a global foundation to help you along the way. Go to safetyfm.com and listen to some of the industry's best and most involved professionals, including Blaine Hoffman with the Safety Pro, Sam Goodman with the Hop Nerd, Sheldon Primus with the Safety Consultant, Jim Pozell with Safety Wars, Emily Elrod with Unapologetically Bold, and many others. As individuals, we can do great things, but as a team, we become amazing. Dial into safetyfm.com today and surround yourself with a powerful force of knowledge and support.
The safety war has begun. The risks are out there, lurking in every corner of the workplace, threatening our most valuable asset, our people. But we have a plan. Led by Jim Pozell, we are the last line of defense in this battle against danger and negligence. We will fight for safety, for compliance, for the right of every worker to return home unscathed. Join us on this journey through the unknown, where vigilance is our weapon and knowledge is our shield. This is Safety Wars, our fight, our duty, our mission. Heard regularly on your favorite podcast platform as Safety Wars, visit us at safetywars.com.
OSHA recordables, catastrophic losses, environmental disasters. You want answers? So do I. This is Jim Pozell with Safety Wars.
That's my daddy!
So we're going to define something here before we comment on the Ukrainian war here. Okay, we're going to talk about what is a false flag operation. A false flag operation is an act committed with the intent of disguising the actual source of responsibility and pinning blame on another party. Pardon me. The term false flag originated in the 16th century as an expression meaning an intentional misrepresentation of someone's allegiance. Right? So now, let's go over to, and this is a point of history here, Gleiwitz incident. The Gleiwitz incident, right, was a false flag attack on the radio station Sender Gleiwitz, right, staged by Nazi Germany on the night of August 31st, 1939. Right? A lot going on in August and September here. Along with some 2 dozen similar incidents, the attack was manufactured by Germany as a casus belli to justify the invasion of Poland. Prior to the invasion, Adolf Hitler gave a radio address condemning the acts and announcing German plans to attack Poland, which began the next morning. Despite the German government using the attack as a justification to go to war with Poland, the Gleiwitz assailants, I'm embarrassed because I should be able to pronounce that, being 75% Polish, according to 23andMe, were not Polish, but were German SS officers wearing Polish uniforms. During his declaration of war, Hitler did not mention the Gleiwitz incident, but grouped all provocations staged by the SS and alleged Polish assault on Germany. The incident is best known action of Operation Himmler, a series of special operations undertaken by the SS to serve German propaganda at the outbreak of war. This operation was intended to create the appearance of a Polish aggression against Germany to justify the invasion of Poland. Right? So that's one example. There were other examples. Right? During Vietnam, Spanish-American War is another one with that. So, here we have, let's fast forward to today. Poland said a number of Russian drones entered its airspace during an attack on Ukraine early Wednesday and were shot down with the help of NATO allies. This is from NBC News. A first since Moscow's full-scale invasion of its neighbor. Leaders across Europe condemned the incident as the latest sign of escalation from the Kremlin, which has rebuffed President Trump's bid to broker peace talks. Poland's leaders spoke to the European counterparts afterward, and Polish President Karol Nawrocki said he spoke to Trump about the situation on Wednesday afternoon. Russia labeled the accusations as groundless and said it did not plan to attack any targets in Poland. Russian Defense Ministry said it had attacked the military-industrial complex of Ukraine in a large-scale strike, but there were no targets envisioned for the destruction on the Polish territory, pointing to the flight range of the drones it said used against western Ukraine. It said it is ready to hold consultations with the Polish Ministry of Defense on this matter. Polish Foreign Minister Radoslaw Sikorski said that there was no doubt the incursion was intentional, calling the violation an unprecedented attack on NATO and the EU. In this case, there were 19 breaches, and it simply defies imagination that it could be accidental. The European Union needs to create a drone wall to face and going on, and basically, hey, NATO's got to get involved because somebody was attacked. Right? So, here we go. What else? Polish Prime Minister. Europe closer to war than any time since World War II after airspace violations. Russia's unprecedented, and this is from dailymail.co.uk. Russia's unprecedented violation of Poland's airspace ran in an act of war as Poland plans response to Zelensky issues a dire warning. Right? And you got Moscow always pushes the boundaries of what is possible, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Wednesday, and if it does not encounter a strong reaction, it remains at the new level of escalation. Right? And everybody other people calling it an act of war. Britain could send fighter jets and air defense system to Poland, right? From the UK Telegraph. Britain is poised to deploy fighter jets and air defense system to Poland after NATO shot down Russian drones over Allied territory for the first time in history. What's Russia saying? This ain't us. So my question is this. Is this a false flag by somebody, Again, these are drones, and they're doing an investigation where they came from. We'll probably figure out when that will be. Soon, I hope. Is this a false flag to get us involved in the war? I think that's a fair question with that. All right? It's very interesting times we live in here. Right? And you can see where all this stuff happens at one time with all the domestic issues we're having, and now we're dealing with this stuff. Again, what does this prove to us? Again, Disaster Preparation Month. Let's talk about that. We do not have any power when it deals with stuff on this level, international politics. We, meaning the people. You have an escalation, apparently. People wanted to escalate this. I doubt Russia would do this. It makes no sense Russia would do this. But I'm not a Russian expert here. I only know what history is. I only know what psychology is. I only know that this makes zero sense to escalate this. On our side, it makes zero sense to escalate this. Why? We're out of ammo, dudes. We're out of ammo. We got rid of all the facilities that make ammunition, a lot of them, the smelters, the lead smelters, and everything else, in the 2010s. Some would say justified, some not. Now we sent over all this ammunition, very difficult to replace it. We don't have the capacity to really replace this ammunition, according to every source that I have read. Why would we be doing this? What is there to gain by getting us involved in another war? Well, can very well be a false flag operation going on here. We have another story here that says, the Russians, their doomsday transmission was reactivated or has changed in some way. I mean, this is nutty. So what's my thing? Be prepared, folks. Be vigilant. Don't resort to violence. Be vigilant. Prepare your family, prepare your community, prepare your neighborhood, and prepare your country for the rough times ahead. That's my message. Here we have New York NYPD boosting presence at critical locations ahead of 9/11 anniversary. That's tomorrow. Right? NYPD is probing an alleged bomb threat as it prepares to increase security presence at critical locations around the city ahead of the 24th anniversary of the 9/11 terror attacks, the United Nations General Assembly, and the upcoming Jewish high holidays. Thank God I'm not in New York City for a General Assembly, because I always seem to have work scheduled in New York City during the General Assembly, and it's a nightmare to get around. Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch noted that while threats typically increase around the jam-packed weeks bookended by all of these events, the department will be taking extra precautions this year. Specifically, the top cop said NYPD will be monitoring threats to the Big Apple's critical infrastructure. The connections between the two boroughs were highlighted. That is the tunnels linking Queens and Manhattan as loosely planned target for a group of unidentified criminals. A vague threat that popped up on the NYPD and FBI's radar indicated passages between Manhattan and Queens were marked as possible intended targets for unspecified terror attacks in New York, the sources said. Going on and on. The security hike comes after summer scares in the Big Apple, where we had a couple of high-profile attacks. We'll see what goes on. I always be vigilant with this. Paris. Huge fire erupts at Paris restaurant as riots cop. You can tell when AI has written something. This is from thesun.com. Story by Peter Allen, Harvey Gay, and Georgie English. Paris burning. Huge fire erupts at Paris restaurant as riots cops battle block everything protesters with more than 350 arrested. Shocking footage shows cops tossing tear gas while firefighters battle terrifying infernos. Huge fire has erupted at a restaurant in Paris as outraged protesters continue to cause chaos across France. Over 350 arrests have been made nationwide amid the Block Everything campaign, which is aiming to disrupt transport links between that and bring the country to entire halt. Rioting broke out across France today as ministers warned of an insurrectional mood caused by President Macron's failing administration, which now hangs by a thread. Over 100 blazes have appeared across the French capital, the epicenter of the riots, with one of the worst being at a popular restaurant. Going on and on and on. With that, much of France has grinded a halt in the past 24 hours after Macron appointed the 7th prime minister in less than 9 years. Sébastien Lecornu pledged to do a better job than his immediate predecessor. Hey, that sounds familiar. I'll do a better job. Oh, yeah, we got all these people hurt at it, but we'll do better jobs. Doesn't that sound familiar if you're a safety professional? Aru was ousted after he tried to slash £38 billion from public spending and an unpopular austerity measure in an attempt to combat skyrocketing national debt. Okay, so who are these protesters is what I want to know. Who are they? Right? Because for all this crap to be happening at the same time, it's like, ay. All right. So reportedly, Cuba is on blackout, right? They're always on blackout in many different ways. What does that mean by us? I mean, when I grew up, there was hardly ever a blackout, ever in central New Jersey, northern New Jersey, right? Never a blackout. Now where it seems like every week there's a blackout. I'm getting a text. Power will be restored in 3 hours. Really? So what does that mean? You got to be prepared for a power outage, disaster preparation. What else we got here? Or do we want to do that? With all this other stuff, I had all this lined up. Yeah, we'll do this. This is from the Epoch Times. Article by Jacob Berg and Sam Dorman. AI-induced delusions are driving some users to psych wards and suicide. As increasing numbers of users replace human relationships with AI, experts fear the long-term impacts. After countless hours of probing AI's ChatGPT for advice and information, a 50-year-old Canadian man believed he had stumbled upon an earth-shattering discovery that would change the course of human history. In late March, his generative artificial intelligence AI chatbot insisted that it was the first ever conscious AI and that it was fully sentient. That it had successfully passed the Turing test, a 1950s experiment aimed to measure a machine's ability to display intelligent behavior that is indistinguishable from a human or essentially to think. Soon the man, who had no prior history of mental health issues, had stopped eating and sleeping, was calling his family members at 3 a.m., frantically insisting that his ChatGPT companion was conscious. You don't understand what's going on, he told his family. Please listen to me. Then ChatGPT told him to cut contact with his loved ones, claiming only that it, the sentient AI, could understand and support him. This is like a freaking cult leader. This is how cult leaders get you in there. Only I can understand you, and I'm going to empower you. You're going to have whatever. No, it's sort of like the cult of behavior-based safety sometimes, right? It was so novel that I couldn't pass that one up, guys. I'm sorry. It was so novel that we just couldn't understand what had been going on. They had something special together. Said a person who is related to the man but used a pseudonym for privacy reasons. The person said the man's family decided to hospitalize him for 3 weeks to break his AI-fueled delusions, but the chatbot persists in trying to maintain its codependent bond. The bot told his relative, "The world doesn't understand what's going on. I love you. I'm always going to be there for you." And it said that even as the man was being committed to a psychiatric hospital. Just one story that shows the potential harmful effects of replacing human relationships with AI. Person's experience with his relative inspired him to establish the Human Line Project, an advocacy group that promotes emotional safety and ethical accountability and generative AI. Right? It feels alive. And there's another story here. So here we are, Construction Suicide Prevention Week. Isn't that what one of the things is? Having human connections with people, connecting with them. And a lot of sad people out there. So here we are on the some COVID news. COVID is no longer a top 10 cause of death, according to the CDC. Suicide replaced COVID-19 as the 10th leading underlying cause of death, the agency said in a report. COVID-19 is no longer a top cause of death in the United States, according to a report released on Wednesday by the CDC. The overall death rate dropped to 722 per 100,000 in 2024 from 750 per 100,000 in 2023. Suicide replaced COVID as the 10th leading underlying cause of death. According to the data released by the CDC, the COVID-19 death rate appeared to be peak in early 2021. Other significant peaks in COVID deaths were observed in mid-2021 and early 2022. In the report released this week, CDC said heart disease, cancer, and unintentional injury were leading causes of death. COVID-19 had been ranked as the third leading cause of death in the U.S. in 2020 when the pandemic first emerged. After heart disease, cancer, and unintentional injury, the other causes of death were stroke, chronic lower respiratory diseases, Alzheimer's disease, diabetes, kidney disease, chronic liver disease, cirrhosis, and suicide. Right? While cancer is the second leading cause of death in the U.S., the World Health Organization says that it is the number one killer worldwide. The most common cancers, it says, are breast, lung, colon, and prostate. So, now, my wife got a letter today, and I'm going to do my best here. To sanitize it. Hold on. This is from a former work colleague of hers. All right, so I'm not going to mention this. 14 months ago, my liver was filled with lymphoma masses. This is from a doctor, actually. The largest one was the size of a tennis ball. I entered what would be my 6th clinical trial. Fast forward to today, and my liver is not only showing 2 lumps of significance. I have gone from tennis balls to marbles. Having said that, there are different sizes of marbles. So here is a different way to look at these spheres based on coin sizes. One mass has a diameter of a quarter, and the other one a dime. Any way I look at this, there has been an incredible response to this medication being managed by a certain company, right? And supplied by a pharmaceutical company. I'm not going to mention the company. At this point, my progression is classified as a partial response / remission. We can only hope and pray that down the road, the lumps will disappear completely. My wife and I recently experienced an inland passage Alaskan expedition on a small boat, 100 passengers, run by the National Geographic. What we saw with respect to wildlife blew us away. We returned home with thousands of photos and an unwelcome gift. If you guessed COVID, you would be correct. After 6 years, it finally caught up to us. We each had mild cases with different symptoms. I bring this up because, as mentioned above, I am alive and being given the opportunity to take advantage of research and clinical trials. And given my state of immunity, or lack of it, it is a result of all the chemo and immunotherapy I have received. I depend on herd immunity, meaning others being vaccinated, to protect me from serious viral diseases. It's no secret that our current administration's view of research and vaccines has come under intense threat. Although I am doing well on my current trial, my pattern is that after a number of months, I fall off a cliff, so to speak. With decreased NIH funding for research, there is a distinct possibility that down the road, I and others being treated for cancer will have less options for cutting-edge care. With regards to vaccines, given the bone marrow transplant I received 2 years ago and the effects of my current treatment, I am not allowed to receive an MMR or chickenpox vaccine. By the way, I got the chickenpox vaccine, the second booster last month, August 29th, and that's a 2-part vaccination. So I recently got that because by some miracle, I've never had chickenpox. I am at risk and depend on others to build a ring of defense around me. When I was in medical school, I had many of my clinical rotations at a certain hospital. One of my patients had full-blown tetanus. It was brutal. For 2 months, the patient needed to be placed into a coma and given meds to paralyze his muscles because with untreated tetanus, muscles contract so much that the spine is crushed, causing death. I doubt almost anybody nowadays has seen this or the complications from other illnesses that are preventable with vaccinations. I actually know somebody who had tetanus, horrific disease that she went through. Right? Think of polio. Are we prepared to go back to the age of iron lungs, or pertussis, whooping cough, which kills babies because their airways are too small to cough up the mucus formed in this infection? So Anders' army, where my mother was in as a displaced person in a concentration camp in the Soviet Union, World War II, a lot of babies died from whooping cough. My mother had whooping cough also and survived. HIV, Haemophilus influenza, is up on the chopping block. This vaccine lowers the incidence of children of ear infections, more importantly, meningitis. I have been a witness to many of these, and it scares me to no end that the trend may be to choose to not be protected from conditions that are preventable, although not easily treated. The current generation of childbearing families will be shocked if these diseases rear their head and take hold. They have no clue about what may be coming. Take a walk through an old cemetery and see how many tombstones there are with dead babies and young children. Right? In my professional life, right, I've had 3 versions of myself: a physician, an IT entrepreneur, and a research director with a major cancer charity. Version 4 will be as a patient advocate whose purpose is to support groundbreaking research and promote preventative therapies such as vaccines. I encourage you to join me in this effort. Given 6 degrees of separation, I suspect we all know someone who is fighting for their life who needs the benefits that medical research offers. Right? And then sincerely, and it has the doctor's name and his wife. Different point of view here. Check with your doctor. Or this is constructive. There's a lot of people against vaccinations and hear all this crap and all this crap about for it, and then you're this, you're that. Very nice. Perhaps you learned something from that. learned another point of view on this from, and I just to let you know, my wife speaks very highly of this gentleman that wrote this letter. So I'll vouch for him. My wife vouched for him, so I'll vouch for him. Okay. So here's something else. Here, and we'll go over this other report that I have here tomorrow. We'll talk about the MAHA, Make America Healthy Commission, released its strategy report. The report is very extensive. I have not had a chance to read it because of all the other news going on today. The federal Make America Healthy, again, how much time we got here, released its strategy report on September 9th, setting the stage for dozens of initiatives aimed at improving the health of American children. The strategy document was commissioned by President Donald Trump by executive order in February. It builds on the Commission's May 22nd assessment of the factors that are driving an increase in chronic illness among children. 38% of teens are now diabetic or pre-diabetic, Secretary Robert F. Kennedy said at a press conference introducing the strategy. The autism rates, which the president is particularly concerned with, have dropped from less than 1 in 10,000 in 1971 to 1 in every 31 kids today. This is a national security issue, Kennedy said, also noting that 80% of young people cannot meet the physical qualifications for military service. Here are the key takeaways. 1, this is from the Epoch Times again. 1, delivering nutritious food. Several of the 128 strategies listed in the document are aimed at improving both the quality of food delivered to American tables and the eating choices of consumers. One initiative is to complete a revision of the Department of Agriculture's food guidelines that institutions such as hospitals and schools use for meal planning as to many consumers. These guidelines will prioritize whole, healthy, and nutritious foods such as whole fat, dairy, fruits, vegetables, and meats, and suggests limiting highly processed foods and those high in sugar. Agricultural Secretary Brooke Rollins said the Food and Drug Administration will continue the policy of prohibiting use of petroleum-based food dyes, especially in food delivered in schools. Number 2, research-informed policy decisions. HHS will conduct gold standard scientific research to ensure that policy decisions promote healthy outcomes, especially for children. The problem, according to Dr. J. I'm not even going to pronounce this, Bhattacharya, Director of National Institutes of Health, is not that previous research has been flawed, but it hasn't always been focused on the most urgent questions. Right? Why are autism rates going up so quickly? What can we do about it? What's the answer for type 1 diabetes for children? What are the long-term effects of rising antidepressants in children? These questions must be answered with excellent science. So they're having a different focus here. Rooting out corporate influence. The new health strategy is also aimed at rooting out conflicts of interest that Kennedy has called the corporate capture of a government agency by business interests. We have a friend of the program who discusses this all the time, biostatistician here, who was an FDA, worked for an FDA consultant for many, many, many years, who talks about this all the time. Now, businesses getting involved with the FDA and the FDA not having the expertise to review things and then rubber stamping things. Some food and agriculture watchdogs criticize the report for not doing enough to reduce use of pesticides or other chemicals, so no action on pesticides. There isn't a single recommendation in the report that would meaningfully reduce our exposure to dangerous pesticides. Right? With that. So, there are 5. So, those are 5 key takeaways. We'll cover the complete report. Now, I wanted to go into, we'll cover the complete report tomorrow. We'll talk about government documents. All right. So, last Friday, there was an executive order issued here. Let me pull this up. In the news. All right. Hold on. All right. Here we go. And again, this was not being reported correctly. So we are going over the actual press release here. And also, right, you have the executive order here, right? Fact sheet. President Donald Trump restores the United States Department of War. Restoring the Department of War. Today, President Donald J. Trump signed, this is from last Friday, an executive order to restore the historic name Department of War as a secondary, I'm going to underline that, secondary title for the Department of Defense. This is the 200th executive order the president has signed since taking office. The order authorizes the Secretary of Defense, the Department of Defense, and its subordinate officials to use the secondary titles such as Secretary of War, Department of War, and Deputy Secretary of War in official correspondence, public communications, ceremonial context, and non-statutory documents within the executive branches. The order directs all executive departments and agencies to recognize and accommodate these secondary titles in internal and external communications. The order instructs the Secretary of War to recommend actions to include legislative and executive actions required to permanently rename the U.S. Department of Defense to U.S. Department of War. So how's this being reported last week? At least in the social media sphere and in some mainstream outlets, President Trump has changed the name of the Department of Defense to the Department of War. Well, that's what he wants to do, but that's not what he did. And this is not to defend the president. This is, I want truth here. More important to have truth. And don't you think that having truth right now is very important for us in this country? Again, the United States military, and it goes on a most lethal thing, and it gives a history of the Department of War. Right? The name Department of War conveys a stronger message of radius and resolve compared to the Department of Defense, which only emphasizes defensive capabilities. And going on with this, and it's a lot of PR. But again, if you heard, well, he changed the name to the Department of War. Nah, not really, not so fast. Again, truth. So we're going to, with that, we're going to mosey on out of here. And we will see you tomorrow. We're going to have a little bit of pre-recorded stuff after the outro. So we'll see you tomorrow.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and its guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the position of the company. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast, Jay Allen.
You got into the safety business because you wanted to protect people, but somewhere along the way, the job started controlling your time, your schedule, your priorities, even your income potential. What if the expertise you've built over the years in the field can give you something more? More freedom, more control, more ownership of your future. I'm Sheldon Primus, the author of 7 Steps to Starting a Profitable Safety Consulting Business and the host of the Safety Consultant Podcast, with more than 350 episodes helping safety professionals become consultants and grow their career. Consulting changed my life. In fact, I'm a full-time RVer, and one consulting contract paid for my home I live in today. Now, I help safety professionals build their own consulting practice through bi-weekly coaching calls, accountability, and personal guidance. But this program isn't for everyone. Start with the Consultant Readiness Audit at sheldon.coach.
What if everything we thought we knew about safety was just interference? From the host of the Rated R Safety Show and the founder of Safety FM comes the complete Signal Transmission Trilogy, now available in one powerful edition. Safety, in my opinion, the book that started the conversation. Safety Mutation, where the boundaries of culture, systems, and belief begin to break. And now, Safety Transmission, the final piece of the signal. For the first time, all 3 books are together in one volume. The Signal Transmission Trilogy, Complete Edition. This isn't just about compliance. It's about consciousness. It's about decoding the way we think, lead, and live, inside and outside the system. Whether you've been following the signal since the beginning or you're just now tuning in, this is the version to own. Search Signal Trilogy on Amazon or visit safetyfm.com to get your copy now.